everybody. Welcome to the Living Well podcast with Liv Hill. I am so excited today to have my friend Misty Chesser joining us on today's podcast. Welcome, Misty.
Thank you so much for asking me to be with you today. I'm so excited about our conversation.
It is going to be such a good time. So Misty is a friend of mine. She is very much into health and nutrition for herself, for her family. And then she is also a family nurse practitioner. So she is well into taking care of health, helping others take care of their health as well. So we're going to talk about all those types of things today on our podcast.
Absolutely.
All right, Misty. So give us a little history background of you and your family dynamic and what your house looks like.
Absolutely. So I work from home. I work about 40 hours a week as a family nurse practitioner. I have absolutely amazing husband. Kenny Chesser is my husband, who's involved in ministry. And then I have 3 wonderful children who go to school and are very involved in sports as well. I have Julian, who's 10, and the girls, identical twin girls who just turned 8 years old. We also own our property. We have my wonderful mother-in-law and my elderly aunt who lives with us on our property. So we have a very, very busy household, very communal. We have a lot going on at all times, lots of meals around the table, lots of fun, but lots of work too.
Definitely lots of work. So if you missed that, she's got a son and then she's got identical twin girls. And so they're all in sports activity. And then you guys are also very active in your church community as well.
Yes, we actually go to JNCC in Walnut, Mississippi. Our pastors are Corey and Amelia Porterfield. We have an excellent church, and we have lots going on at our church at all times. We love to invest in the kingdom in any way possible, and also love to invite people over our house. We love to go out to eat. We love to socialize. We love to talk about the Bible with others. So those are definitely priorities for us as well as spending time with our friends and our fellow laborers in Christ.
Yes. You guys are so busy, but a good busy, right?
It's a good pouring out.
It is a very good pouring out. Well, let's jump in and talk about some things. So as it relates to health, I know that, like I said, when we started the podcast, that you and I talk a lot about strength training. We talk a lot about taking care of your health. And when I first jumped into nutrition coaching, I remember we were like texting back and forth. And
I was so excited.
At the time you were doing like, you're like, we're going to talk about this, ask all the questions. And you were doing a lot of HIIT workouts at that time. Is that right?
Yes, I was doing a lot of the HIIT workouts, running on my treadmill, anything to burn some calories.
Yes, that was the main goal. And how far out of pregnancy were you when that was? I guess that was about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yes, I believe when I had never done any type of weights except for playing around with it at the gym, like after I would run on the treadmill after having Julian. When he was born, I used to run and things like that in college and high school, but I had never touched dumbbells or anything like that at all until after the girls were born. And honestly, I didn't really know that there was any other way. I just thought, I kind of did a little bit of weight, mild weights, like maybe 2 to 3 pounds, with some of the 30-day shred videos, not knocking Jillian Michaels or anything at all. She helped me lose weight, and it was exercise at least, but I feel like I definitely struggled with losing the weight, but more than that, just feeling confident and strong. I felt more weak afterwards than anything because I felt like I was pouring a little too much out and not putting a lot in.
Yeah.
The nutrition was not really on point either. I was just kind of stuck in the MyFitnessPal mindset of whatever MyFitnessPal told me to eat. As far as calories, obviously I couldn't do it really, honestly. I couldn't do it. Like I physically, I'm a very hungry person all the time. I eat a lot of food, and I need it. Like in the morning, I'll start to feel like I'm going to throw up if I don't eat pretty quickly. Like I would never make it for intermittent fasting or anything like that because I would be sick as a dog. And if I am fasting for Jesus, it takes a lot of prayer. But
Yeah.
I do feel like my nutrition didn't really take off until, I mean, obviously it felt like I was seeing a lot more social media accounts on macros, and then you were discussing it. Of course, you were one of my close friends, and I trusted you, and but I had never really looked at the quality of calories versus I just kind of looked at calories. You know, everybody tells you move more, eat less, or eat less calories. That's kind of what you're taught, you know. And even with school, for me, I felt like we didn't just tell people that necessarily throughout my career. I really tried to help them, but I don't feel like I really took a peak interest in nutrition until I got it for myself. Because I didn't have a grasp on it like I needed to because it wasn't taught in school.
Yeah. I think that's really important, is like when you go through schooling, when you are going through nursing school, and I've got a couple of folks that are nurses that work with me, nutrition is really just such a small component of what you go through when you're in medical school.
Well, and also we're not taught it in what I feel like should be taught in elementary schools and high schools. Like I feel like the nutrition shouldn't even be, I mean, you shouldn't have to wait till college before you learn about it. Like it should be something that you foundationally learn in school. And I just don't think I really learned how to eat ever.
Yeah. And nobody ever really talks about the importance of protein. And I think that's where clients come into me and they say, well, I'm eating a solid amount of protein. You know, I feel like I'm really eating a good amount. And we need, you know, anywhere from 0.8 grams to 1.2 gram per pound of ideal body weight. And a lot of folks are eating half of that.
Yes, and I find that so many times with my patients and then also with my family whenever that few years ago, I guess it's been about maybe 3 to 4 years ago when and it was really just you. I mean, you were talking about you putting free content out there, and it wasn't just you. I started following people that I felt like, they were telling me to eat more, and they were telling me, you know, to do this with the weights, and it just intrigued me. And so I just really wanted to try it. And honestly, I started eating more protein, and, you know, it was about maybe going from probably 40 to 50 grams to 100 plus protein. And that was the key for me to not eat a sleeve of Oreos at 2 p.m. when I'm trying to take care of the girls and get their food ready and their healthy foods. I wanted to turn to those foods because I didn't have enough fuel in my body. Whereas now I might eat 1,000 calories with, you know, 60 to 70 grams of protein by lunch. I mean, you know, and I just don't feel like I'm starving at 2 p.m. anymore.
Able to sustain a lot longer.
Right. Yeah, the energy levels are definitely up. But as far as the strength training goes, I don't remember the first video that I did. I really think that Heather Robertson was probably one of the first ones that I followed, but then other social media influencers that would post free content. I try to find free YouTube videos because I didn't want to go to the gym, kind of embarrassed to do weights and stuff in front of a lot of people, especially since I was home. And that was key for me. I could do it even when the girls were really small and it was a lot more taxing. I could really do some of it with them in the room with me or while they're eating or, you know, anything like that. I could fit it in like to my schedule, or fit it in before the work day started or during lunch, or if I had in between patients and stuff like that, I could fit it in. Whereas I didn't have time to fit in going to the gym. That would take hours to get there, and then I'd have to spend more time away from my kids than I wanted to, you know. And so I thought it was best for me personally to do that. For others, it may be better to go to the gym, but for me, I like doing the home workouts.
Yeah. And I'm with you. I prefer home workouts, but there's also I was talking to a client yesterday, and she's like, I need away from the house. I need the community. I need to get out there. So I think and that's the beauty of strength training, is that there's no right or wrong way
Right.
as far as
No.
where you do it.
Yes,
It's
just
just getting
whatever
in
you
there and
need
saying,
filled up in that moment, whatever fills your cup. And for me, being with my family during those moments still helped fill me up. And if I need to strength train away from them, then I'll do it while they're still asleep, like in the mornings, or I'll do it when they go to school, and that's fine too. If I need some time for my mental health and just focus more, that is totally fine too. Just whatever way it fits into your schedule.
and you found, going back to what you were saying, you found that when you pulled away from like the HIIT training and the running, and I'll stop there and be clear that we're not saying that running is horrible. I enjoy still a good run from time to
Yes.
time myself. Like, I mean, it's a great.
Yes.
So don't listen to this podcast and say, I don't have to ever run again, or running is horrible, or going to increase cortisol, or all these,
Right.
scary things out there about running. But it's more that you found that strength training energized you more so than HIIT and cardio all the time. And
Yes.
so when you were being pulled, and you still are being a mom and working and active in the church, you found that you can do strength training and still feel stronger. You're getting a better body response, and you're not as tired and taxed and drained as you were when you were focusing on the cardio. So that's been where
Right.
strength training has come in so beneficial for you.
Agreed. Yes, it has been beneficial because when I pull back from the height, which the height was happening at least 4 to 5 times a week, which now I realize
Yeah.
that's probably excessive. If I was going to do it, it might need to be like 1 time a week or something, but not that much. But I scaled back and focused more on walking, and then I focused on, well, let's build some strength. And honestly, for me personally, it's also I can maintain my weight. I don't have to worry as much about the nutrition. Now, don't get me wrong. I still think about nutrition. I don't throw it out completely, but like I can go on vacation because I've built some muscle mass up, and I can eat some donuts or fun at, wherever we're at, and still eat some good stuff too, even while on vacation. Like I don't have to throw it all out, but and then I can come back home. And of course I know about what you say and what experts say is when you step on the scale, it's okay. It's going to go up after vacation, but you'll watch it. It's going to go down as you go back into your normal rhythm. And I think that was for me is not becoming a slave to the scale, because you encouraged me to take inches versus do weight measurements, but inches too. And so when I started doing the inch measurements, which really ties in with strength training because you're building muscle, and so you start shrinking in some places, but guess what? Some places start to get bigger, but it's okay because you're like shifting that body composition. And you know that it's okay to take up some space. I've seen that a lot with some of my favorite fitness influencers that say it's okay to take up space. You don't have to be the skinniest girl, and it helps your confidence, and it helps you to feel like you can tackle something. Whereas when you're you don't have a lot of muscle and you feel kind of weak and you're tired and you're eating 1,200 calories a day and you're running an hour a day, you feel weak and tired and like you can't tackle the world. So I think the important thing would be is even if you are a runner and you enjoy that and that's what you want to do, is you have to also remember that you got to eat adequately in order to maintain that. And it may make it harder for you to lose weight if you continue to like run a ton and not eat enough, or at least it did for me and most people. It will give them difficulties to lose.
You're just underfed and over exercised.
Right, exactly. And I definitely think I was in that case because I did lose some initially, but then it just plateaued and it wouldn't go anywhere. And I didn't feel great. And of course, life is stressful as it is, and going through times of death and heartache and all that's going to change. And sometimes your weight fluctuates with those changes. But I felt like the strength training is what gave me like the anchor to be able to, if I can just get in, even just, I know this sounds like sadly minimal, but if I could just get in one strength training per week, then I just feel like
Yeah.
I don't lose it. I really don't lose the muscle, and I don't lose my momentum. So even if like we're going through something really hard and I just don't have time to do it, and I just try to get my walking in, then if I could just do it one day, because then it's just one day, and obviously I shoot for more than that on most weeks, but it's really been a foundational change for me to maintain my weight and my, I guess I would say, vitality, like how I feel.
Yes. How you feel. And I remember too, I don't know if you remember this, Misty, we didn't talk about this before, but I so remember like a conversation we had on the phone. I was upstairs in my house and I remember sitting on the couch upstairs and you said, I just really like the high that I get from running. Do you remember this? And you said,
Yes.
and I said, well, I think that you should, let's talk about strength training. Let's talk about doing strength. And you're like, but I love the high that I get from running, and I've been there. So that's why I remember it probably because those endorphins are going. And I'm like, well, yeah, but how do you feel like an hour later? And you're like,
I might need a nap.
and so it sounds like just talking about like it was easy to transition from that exercise endorphin high to strength training, but it definitely took you being willing to lean into the process to say, you know what, let me give this a try. Let me see how I feel. You had to lean into that and get more into, it was really out of your comfort zone because your comfort zone was moving in that way.
Right. When I was a teenager, it was always like Tybo, or like I did a lot of the Jillian Michaels videos to lose weight after Julian. And so I really got like that was my method. That was just my method, but I didn't realize exactly how it was making me feel. Maybe, yes, it would give me some of the results for I wanted, but it wasn't truly what I wanted. What I wanted is, obviously I dress modestly. So people don't see what I see, but I flexing them. I'm like, I got biceps, and I have strong legs, and things like that. And I look at that and think how it does make me proud, that I put that work in and I transitioned to that because I feel like now a lot of the research is coming out, and it's been there before I ever started strength training, but it comes out more and more about how it preserves your bone health. It helps to improve longevity, helps to reduce all-cause mortality. And so you look at all the data there, along with still doing your walking and some of your getting your heart rate up too. But obviously, strength training does some of that. But I think combining the two is key, but not in a way that is going to produce so much stress that you're sacrificing your sleep to do it, or you're sacrificing your mental health to do it. And I think that's the key. If I think I'm gonna have to get up and lose my extra hour of sleep, and I need at least I need to find another time to strength train, or I need to dial down my minutes that I'm going to do it, because I do think I can't sacrifice those areas either, because it affects my overall health when I do.
Absolutely. Well, and you hit a good thing, and I'm going to pull up this statistic here, and we'll kind of get into like your nursing specialty there. But it said, 50% of Americans have a preventable chronic disease, and 70% of chronic diseases benefit from exercise. And 80% of adults do not meet the activity guidelines for lifting and moving. So overall, this was a neat statistic, is that the lack of activity is linked to over $100 billion in annual healthcare costs.
Wow, that's insane.
So that's a huge number to know that most of our inflammation comes from lack of movement and lack of quality nutrition.
Right, absolutely. And I believe that I see it firsthand. As I was telling you earlier, we're doing a biometric campaign checking cholesterol, just screening glucoses, A1Cs, those type of things right now in our population, as well as blood pressure, weights, and things like that. And it really is, it's eye-opening every 2 years when we do it to see how many pre-diabetics we have, to see how many people have high cholesterol and they don't have it. They may claim it's genetic. So let me pull that back. Some do, but I do try to encourage them, even if you have somebody that has diabetes in your family or has high cholesterol, that you do have something that you can do to keep you from becoming that. Not everybody, obviously type 1 diabetes is a different story. We're talking about insulin dependent. We're talking about the pancreas not producing insulin at all. You can improve your health, but you can't get off insulin if you're insulin dependent diabetic. But however, type 2 diabetes is a different story, as is prediabetes and metabolic syndrome. Those things can only be improved. And I always recommend, walking. I try to shoot for, obviously I wrote some numbers down for the walking, because I know we're talking about strength training. When you do your coaching, you focus a lot on steps. And I know the study from last year, the meta study, it was like just 2,500 to 2,700 steps. You're at an 8% less risk of cardiovascular disease. 7,000 steps, which is pretty much what I try to get people at minimum. 51% less chance of cardiovascular disease. 9,000 steps, which I know you kind of try to pull people up to that 10,000 mark, is 60% less chance of death from cardiovascular disease. I mean, it's just walking. That's just walking. And so that's unbelievable to me. Like, not everybody can walk, but the majority of us who are trying to improve our health and we have mobility can walk. Even with pain, we can try our best to do it, because it could improve our pain for our future. And so that's why I think it's important. So I just wanted to mention that too, because I do try to shoot for those steps as well.
I think that's huge. And I think it's worth talking about walking, because when we look at those statistics that you gave in the meta-analysis, and when I, look at what we're saying here is, 80% of adults don't meet those guidelines, and that's in strength training and walking. So I think that while strength training is very beneficial for, like we said, especially women, if you are listening to this and if you're a woman, postmenopausal, premenopausal, menopausal, lift some weights. That's going to be one of the biggest gifts. Please lift some weights. That'll be
you won't get bulky. You won't get bulky.
I wish.
It takes years and years, and lots of effort, lots of dialing just precisely on your nutrition, and lots of commitment to get bulky. You're not going to get that. It's not going to happen. That's false claims.
Lots of food. Lots of food to build muscle, big bulky muscle. But so if you're a woman listening, we will always say strength train. You can start at home, low weights, 10 pounds, starting there and building up. But for the fact of walking, when you have 80% of Americans who are not meeting that, and then the meta-analysis saying that you can improve, 50 or 60% by
just 7,000. If you just walk 7,000 a day, and you can cut that, and I know you encourage this because I see your content all the time about, can you do it? Can you do it 15 minutes in the morning, and then can you do 15 minutes later on? Can you incorporate it with when you take your children to the park, walk circles around them? I do that. Like, okay, I don't want to sit on the bench because I've been sitting all day at my job. I want to walk. I want to get these steps in. Or you go to their game and you walk literally around the field while you're watching your child, and you're yes, go Charlie, but I'm walking around the field, or anything like that, just to get those steps in helps.
It absolutely helps. And I will do that too. We took the girls to the park yesterday, and we walked together with the girls, and then they played and I walked a little bit. But what is funny to me is that as the years, I've been doing this for 15 years, in the habit of walking and things. And before, people would kind of look at me, but now people are so engaged in their phones that no one even notices.
Well, that's kind of sad, but you're right. They don't notice it. Yeah. I kind of thought, like, when I go to the parks, and I'm like, these people probably think I'm crazy, because sometimes it's not even a walking track. I'm just walking around the playground equipment 90 million times. And people are not paying as much attention to you as you think they are. It's the same with the gym too. Like, if you want to go to the gym, guess what? Do it. Don't worry about what people are thinking about or seeing. You're invested in your health and your family. Yes. So it's okay for you to walk or do whatever you need to do, even if you appear weird.
Yeah, I mean, and you think, and so, with the invention of social media and it's so popular, of course, I use social media, so it's got its plus and minuses for sure. But, I'll think to myself, I'm walking around this playground equipment, or just like you said, like it's not even a walking track, it's just some space. But I'm like, how many clips are they seeing on social media a day? How much is coming? I was like, if you asked me to tell you what one person at that park was wearing yesterday, I couldn't do it. I could barely tell you even what I had on. And so
Right.
when we just realized that nobody's looking, nobody's paying attention, just get up and move. And you'll feel so much better. And you mentioned too, like your kids being in sports. There's and not to hate on people that do this, but it's just opening eyes to opportunity. There's parents sitting in the car on their phone,
Yes.
while their kids are playing. And there's sometimes you are exhausted, and that's what you need to do. It's not like you have to
Yeah.
bust it every time
Right.
you're there. But
Mm.
if you've got the opportunity and you can get out and move instead of sitting in your car on your phone, that's a perfect chance.
Yes, agreed. And I mean, if you need to input something too, you can input a podcast into your, if they're just practicing or something and you don't have to be like paying
Right.
attention and yelling for them or something, then you could input, if you want something for your brain, you can do a book, audiobook or some music or something like that, but then you're still moving your body. Yes, I agree. But a lot of times you look at the people that are, and I do pull my chair up and watch them sometimes, and I'm tired, maybe because I actually was active earlier in the day, because you don't know what those people were
Exactly.
doing early in the day, so there's no judgment on pulling up a chair and just flopping down and watching them or whatever, but it's
Yeah.
like, it is about opportunity though. It's like, do you really not have any time in the day to do it? Because it's about opportunity. Take every chance you get. If it's something that is important to you, then you will make it happen. And yes, the phone can become a deep distraction to your health
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, finding those areas of opportunity. One thing that got me into practice with walking, because when I first started losing my weight, that was, I remember, I'm going to do a podcast on this for myself, but I remember I did a 5-minute yoga video, and you would have thought I ran a marathon every time I did that 5-minute yoga video.
But you were making that effort
Yeah.
and you're showing up, and that's what you do for coaching for people, and hopefully I do for whenever I'm trying to help them with their health, is just to realize those micro changes, they add up over time. You keep doing it and you keep doing it, and you do more, and then you do more, and then you keep doing it, and you do more, and then before you know it, you're lifting, 50 pounds, dumbbells instead of 2-pound dumbbells. I mean, it just
Exactly.
or no dumbbells, like body weight, just barely trying to
Yeah.
get movement in, and then before you know it, you've advanced. But it does take lots of time, lots of effort, as far as years before you can see some of those changes. I believe you'll see some changes initially as soon as you start doing some weights and some resistance changes. But I think it's important that you're playing a long game, that it's just consistency and doing it. And then just knowing it's going to help you in the long run. It really will make a difference, and it'll become easier.
It does. It does become a lot easier. And, I remember, and you may have even done some of this when the twins were little and, your son's little, because they were just right there on top of each other. I remember when the girls were young, I'd put them in the bathtub together, and I would just do, push-ups by the bathtub, and then some squats by the bathtub, different, wide-legged squats, narrow squats, so I just really there were seasons where that was the effort that I could give during that time.
Yeah, and I think that's important too, is that everyone who's listening to this podcast knows that if you have a grandparent who's in hospice and you're trying to raise your small children, and that, you may look at me and Liv right now and think, man, I wish that I was where they are. But you know what? Your season's different than ours right now. And my season might change, but I think that foundationally we kind of know where we go back to and we reroute to, but we had to also move from doing just what we could, bare minimum for our health, to where we are now, and maybe our kids are older and we can invest more time, more effort, involve them now. But before, when our kids were small, it was very minimal effort. But guess what? It was effort. I didn't stop.
It was
You just
effort.
don't
Yeah, and
stop.
it was consistent.
hmm It was consistent and it was effort and maybe a small amount of time, but it was definitely consistency, and that's what's important. Plus it'll help your mental health because so many women go through postpartum and it's lonely being having small children like that, and so anything that you can do that says, man, I'm still important and I'm still worth something,
There you go.
and these kids are going to need me whenever
Yeah.
like I'm in my 50s and 60s. They're going to still need me to be here. And so I got to do
Yeah.
something for that future Misty too, or future Olivia
Mm-hmm.
too. And
Yeah.
those future children, they're not always going to be 3 and 4 years old. Eventually they might be, 30 years old, and they might really want their mom to still be around, to help them
Yeah.
with their beautiful children that they have. And you get to be a grandparent. So it's worth it to
Yeah.
invest in you now, even if you have small children and you feel like you don't have that time and space.
I totally agree with that. Totally agree. And once you incorporate it and just build on it over time, it becomes easier as a lifestyle.
It does, yeah.
I
You
always
just,
say, I always say that when I line it up with when people go to church, when they first start attending church, it's like, well, you're not going to preach Sunday service after your second visit, right? And so, but you see that somebody shows up consistently time and time and time again. They start coming to more services, and then in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, they are teaching classes and doing a
right,
whole lot more. And so I just like to line that up to say, our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health, they all go hand in hand. And when we pull back and say, look how you grow in the faith, and if you allow your physical body to kind of take those consistent steps and grow, when I look back over my spiritual walk, I'm like, woo, I've done some decent stuff, still a long way to go.
but
So that's the same way with physical.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's great. And I think people need to know, there are certain things that happen to your body that you don't have control over. Like you might get cancer, or you might get in a car accident, or you might have some sort of rare genetic disease that affects your mobility, or whatever that is. And obviously I have a great understanding and compassion for those people, and I work in healthcare and take care of those people. And not everybody's going to be like, me and you, where we could lift some heavier weights and we can stand to do it. So you just do what you can, and know that there are some things that are handed to you that you don't have any choice in the matter. And I hate that. And I'm sorry that that's happened to you, but you just take what you can control, what you can grasp,
Yes.
even if it's a small amount that you can do.
Yeah.
Just do that, and don't feel bad about it. Like, I can only lift 3 pounds with my arms because my back is in shambles and my knees are bad and I can't do that right now. Guess what? I honor you. That's amazing that you're making the effort, even in pain every day of your life. You're making that effort to do something for your health. And I mean, people like that, they absolutely amaze me.
Oh, same. Absolutely. So, Misty, we'll transition over for a little bit. For the last part of this is to just talk about how you do incorporate your family, because I know that nutrition is not just for you. So you have moved over into the protein fiber world, making sure that you're getting enough protein and fiber. You don't make separate meals for yourself other than you make for the family.
Right.
And so how do you incorporate nutrition as a whole? And I also want to put in there that I hear a lot of people talk about disordered eating with their kids. Well, I don't want to, make my kids
Create
disordered by
an
talking
eating
about
disorder.
portions, or
Yes.
I don't want to give them disordered eating by not by labeling foods, and so then sometimes by trying to not do that, we create a bigger mess, and then we're rewarding with food and all of these kind of things. So how do you teach balance in your house? You've got 2 girls and a boy, so how do you teach nutrition and balance just by example and in your house?
I think number one, it starts with me as far as conversations about myself. And I do try to keep a very balanced approach, and I do recognize that we got to be careful with how we label good and bad. And I try to frame it as, these carrots have this for you. like, this is for your body. This is what you need, versus, if you eat these chips, it's not that the chips inherently are bad. It's just you're not really going to get a whole lot of protein from it. And we do talk about protein and carbs and fats and things like that. And so I do try to not use a whole lot of restriction language. I try to focus it on, okay, protein, like, oh, this is protein, you need to eat your protein, like last night we had chicken penne pasta, and which is like the Berea protein one, because obviously I'm always trying to add more protein for them, and then doing some cucumbers cut up and some broccoli and things like that. I mean, there's things that they don't like to eat, none of them are really just great fans of broccoli, and so I usually will do like some cucumbers or some green beans or something that they like, and I do make those consolations. As far as if there is a vegetable that I know that they like to eat, I try my best. It is nothing to open a can of green beans or to do some frozen ones or something, when I'm making me and Kenny some steamed broccoli, because I still want us to eat broccoli.
Yeah.
And eventually I feel like they might come around to that, and they've tried it multiple times. And I just give them grace on it, because everybody has food preferences that they like and don't like. And I don't think it's a measure. It's important as a mother or parent to know it's not a measure of how good of a mother you are, whether your kids eat broccoli or not. Just if they won't eat that, what will they eat? Will they eat apples? Okay, then feed them apples. Will they eat cucumbers? Feed them cucumbers. Will they eat tomatoes? Feed them tomatoes. And so I don't make separate meals, as in, and that is correct, I don't. Like, I'm not going to make you a peanut butter and jelly sandwich per se, after I cooked homemade chicken and pasta and all that. But I try to tweak it to where it is somewhat to their preference to meet their nutritional recommendations as well. And I'll tell them that too. I'll be like, well, since you're not going to eat the broccoli, we do need you to be eating a vegetable tonight. I said, what can we do, or what do you want? I'll do carrots or green beans or whatever you want, or salad or something like that. So I feel like that helps them to be involved in the process. We talk about eating a number, like, let's just try to shoot for five servings of fruits and vegetables a day, so they kind of count it up at school too, or with their breakfast. So I think that I just try to have communication with them about it. We do. I don't want to affect their body image at all. The girls know, and Julian knows, that they're perfectly created in the image of God, and that their bodies are perfect, and we're not doing what we're doing in order to improve, like, necessarily, like, to get skinny or anything like that. We're doing what we're doing because we want to feel our best and do well on that test, and we want to be able to be awake and alert and play properly with our bodies and play sports and things like that. And so that's how I try with my children to incorporate that as best as possible. And obviously there's no perfect way. Everybody moms differently. So no judgment if y'all don't do it exactly like that, listeners. But that's just how I try to do it. They know what proteins, carbs, fats, they know what fiber is. They know what nutrients are in which foods. They know that water is king. They know that fruit juices have a bunch of added sugar. They know those things that to me are foundational for choices. Do we have fun stuff? Absolutely. We eat pizza. We have hamburgers. We have French fries. We do those type of things as well. Cause I also want them to have some fun in life and not, always be eating broccoli and chicken. You know what I'm saying? And I love broccoli and chicken, and I probably would rather have that. But kids are still kids. They like their candy and their cookies and their pizza and all that stuff. And so we still have fun with it as well.
I think that's so important. And going back to like what we talked about in the very beginning about how in school this was not taught, and so teaching it at home in this way makes a big difference, because you're teaching them what a protein is, what a carb is, and what a fat is. And if you're, like you said, if you're listening and you're not clear on those things yourselves, don't feel bad. Don't beat yourself up. We've all had to learn this. Everybody has had to learn, what these things are. And we'll do some of that here at the house too. And I like what you said about tweaking. Last night, my kids, we made dinner and they said, hey, we really want a hot dog. It wasn't that they didn't I mean, they had cravings. They're a kid, just like
Yeah.
we
Just
like,
like we
okay, well, I
want
really want
sometimes.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I made them a hot dog, but then on the side there was some apples, and so, and I think too, kids, last night, this meal is gonna probably, people be like, oh my word, but this is a kid meal, but
Yeah.
they had black beans, hot dog, and apple.
I
But
do the
they
same.
got fiber from the, yeah, did you?
I do something else too. People would think I'm completely crazy,
but
but I'm always like, it's gonna have some fruit on that plate, and it's gonna have something
yeah,
fiber,
their
some
food.
fiber.
Yeah, it's going to have something. And so Jeremy and I had Mexican, so that's where the black beans came from. And so then
Uh-huh.
they ended up today for lunch taking leftovers from dinner that we
Yeah.
all had, the
Right.
bigger dinner. But but kids will eat. They were tickled. They got their hot dog. They were thrilled with the hot dog,
Yeah.
protein, whatever, the beans, the apples, so it can be something that looks like that if you're trying to work with your kids on
Mhm.
helping them identify how to fuel their little bodies for sports and things like that. It doesn't have to be, it can just be simple.
Yeah, exactly. And I a lot of times build their plates like that. They have little portion plates that will come from Walmart or something, and I'll just
Yeah.
make sure they have a fruit. And if not always a vegetable, but I always almost try to make sure there's fruit on their plate because they'll eat it. It's something they'll all eat.
Yeah.
And again, the beans is foundational because the kids will always eat beans. Like our kids just like beans.
Always.
And
Yeah.
then some sort of protein. And there you go. You don't have to make it complicated. There you go. It's easy for them. It's not mixed together. I do find that texture is an issue for a lot of children. And, obviously we try to accommodate for those type of things. We're not talking about making a separate meal altogether, but, something that makes it easy for mom to get it on the table, but is not, it's not also not going to be like, I'm not bending one bit. You're going to eat this or nothing, type situation.
Right.
I'm not going to be like that either. So.
Yeah. One thing that we've done at our house, and I don't know if you've done at yours, but I've started teaching portion sizes to my girls on the fun foods that they've had, and that's went over really well. Is they take a dessert in their lunch every day. We pack their lunch, and so my girls will say, "I'll go ahead and pack the dessert," and I'll say, "Okay," and they'll turn it to the side and they'll say, "Okay, this says 4 cookies is a serving. I'll put 4 in here." And I think just teaching them
that is great. Yes.
That it's okay, that we should that we should start with one portion.
Yes.
And then we evaluate, are we hungry? Do we want more later? Then let's have another portion. But I think just starting them on the path of portion control helps them understand their hunger and fullness cues as well.
Right. We did have and honestly, it was first time this week. Now that you mention it, we were talking about serving sizes and calories because I really have not broached calories a whole lot with them. And recently we talked about that and portion sizes of like, okay, how many Oreos, like 2 Oreos, how many calories is that? And I was like, okay, what if you ate 6 of them? And then I put it in perspective for their total calories for the day that's required for them. And I, tried to say, see, this is why mama tries to get you to limit the portion of them. Let's have them when you want your dessert. I said, but let's not try to eat 8 of them, and then you have ate that plus, you've ate your other foods as well, and it adds up and can cause some troubles, in your body. So we need to try to pay attention. The portion controls are on the packaging for a reason.
And I feel like that's went over really well. Like I feel like they enjoy learning that. Like they're like, again, I would have enjoyed learning that at 20.
Yeah,
So
I mean, me too. I would have as well. I didn't really understand it as a kid. I never even paid attention to it.
No. So, and my kids will play a fun little game sometimes where while they're eating, like if we have cereal, I mean, we're just a normal house, but again, we're just practicing balance. But they'll read off the nutrition facts. Okay, how many fat are in this? How many carbs? And they'll play a little guessing game, and one will look at the label and the other will try to guess. And so I just think having food knowledge does not create disordered eating. I think it creates eaters that are going to be more in tune with their body and what choices they want to make as they continue to grow.
Right. It's more mindful, but not all consuming. I think disordered eating is all consuming, and you can go one way or another with that. Mindful eating is completely different. You're mindfully thinking about it, but you're not obsessing over it.
I absolutely agree. Well, Misty, this has been 45 minutes. That was quick.
I told you we could probably talk for hours about it.
I know. Oh, goodness. Well, we are going to wrap up today's episode. Missy, this has been so much fun. We had some technical difficulties as we were getting on, so I'm glad that the Lord worked it out and we were able to get on here and talk. And this has just been a blast and such great knowledge. Anything that you want to wrap up with or say as we cut off?
Just wrap it up with this. Please, if you are searching, for someone to help you in your journey toward becoming healthier and feeling better, please seek out Liv Heal. She will help you. There's no doubt in my mind. I've seen her clients' success stories. I know she's helped me as a friend, and helping others who watched from the background maybe and haven't taken the time to invest in the money in it yet. But please, and again, she didn't ask me to do this, but just know that she is worth the investment.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, thank you all for joining this episode. If you want to follow on social media, you can find me at Liv, also directly on the website at Liv Hill. Thank you again, Misty, for joining, and I hope everybody has a great afternoon.
Bye, guys.
See you later.